Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Double Bits Workshop. So in today's video, I was looking at a couple of different things around the house that I needed done. We have been working on the garage vigorously because originally I had a lot of my workshop set up in the garage. Space wasn't working out, so I built the workshop in the past, a few years ago, and put it outside essentially. And that worked amazing. It's a wonderful environment, awesome place. But now we've returned to the garage for a couple different reasons. And we're trying to get this all set up and cleaned up nicely. And this old workbench of mine that I've had for quite a while, back when I used to have a shop on Main Street for a bit, it has done me well, and we're going to actually refit it. So I've said in a couple different videos I like to do 3D printing, and this is actually my 3D printer right here. It's the Tech Shadow 6. It is a phenomenal machine, wonderful. It's got a 2K screen on it. But enough about the machine. What we're working on today is some storage for my acrylic paints. One of the things that you'll notice whenever you start getting into 3D printing of any variant, making all sorts of different things, such as these little hooks, was made out of resin, 3D printed, so very useful. All sorts of different things. This was free plans that you can use, and with the printer, print those off. Works awesome. Really like the transparent red. Pretty tough resin. To other functional things is actually one of the things my friend made. It's a ruler with holes in it, so that way you can set the pencil that you're working with, or pen, through these holes. And this is raised up on the edge here, so that way you can make a mark and drag it across your work, so that way it makes the lines a lot easier. There you go. And there's designations up top here for, I think, these are millimeters. So that way you know exactly how far across. So, metric. Nothing wrong with it, works amazing. And then for what I use the acrylic paints for, is I also print miniatures. So this is for the game Catan. This is one of the renditions of the Thief that you can print out. And he's just normally a gray color for the other resin I used, and then I did a primer of white, so that way he's ready to be painted. And it's just a fun hobby. And if you feel so inclined to go fully crazy, the gray one on this side was what this character originally looked like before I got through painting it. And I think I'm 100% on it. It has taken me some serious time for how tiny this is to get all that detail in there, but I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. It looks pretty awesome in my opinion. I still need to do the eyes, but otherwise I got the face, hair, everything looking pretty good. But it's also just a really enjoyable, fun, and relaxing pastime, and it's something that I'd like to set up a bit more of a permanent station. So back to the project at hand. I had some leftover scraps from when I did the sofa table. Now for these little scraps here are 1/2 inch thick by 1 3/4 wide. I've rounded the edges already preemptively so that way I can handle it without splinters. And what I'd like to do is, if you've got one of these pegboard systems and you bought the miscellaneous random hook kit from Harbor Freight, you ended up with a variety of these little guys here. So they're just these little L hooks that are kind of long and they angle upwards a little bit. So I had an epiphany that I could either cut a channel and recess this into it, or probably what I'm ultimately going to do is just drill a hole so that way it's a bit more of a tight fit, and just slide this right into said hole so that way it can substantiate be slightly angled, and up here on the board in the back. And I'm thinking I'll probably do 2 if it's around this size and 3 if it's a bit longer, just for stability. So that way it doesn't have a chance to kind of like wiggle at all. This does have the secondary hook, so it's not just sitting on this top part here. So it will lock into place and have ever so slight movement, but maybe not too much once I actually slide it into the board. And I'm thinking I'm going to make the hole almost not quite big enough, so that way I have to kind of shove this into it so I'll get a nice pressure fit. And I thought about gluing it originally, but if I ever have to replace these boards, or if I choose to stain or change the color of these down the road, I'd like that ability to kind of modularly take it off and not have the stain do any kind of odd coloration on the steel that looks odd or off-putting, that I'm constantly able to see right at eye height as I'm sitting here. So I've got quite a few. We'll see exactly how many we need, and I'm thinking probably I might go dead center and just have all my paints fill up the dead center of it. I have my keyring station right here for the 3D prints. Screwdrivers off to the side, those are just kind of universal. You will need them on occasion and for maintenance and what have you, but it's also readily available for the house. Some paintbrushes, and I'm kind of setting up this whole area, so there might be some more future content kind of showcasing how this is going and coming along, and different things that I'm doing and different approaches I have to anything around this. So if you have any further questions or enjoy 3D printing or painting miniatures or anything else, feel free to ask or leave a comment down below. And if any of the rest of this build or anything else interests you, feel free as well to also reach out, shoot a comment down below. So without further ado, let's get on with this build. Alright, so far what I have done is I just matched these 2 boards up to each other. So for my dimension, these are 26.5 inches long, and it looks like they'll fit approximately, let's add a couple more of these on, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. So about roughly 19 paints, depending on how much distancing we end up in between. So I'm going to start on one side and kind of just try to match everything up. If nothing else, I'll see exactly, since there is a dead center, I might start there as well and work my way out. And then that way if it's a little off, you won't quite notice it as heavily. But I will be reusing my drill press, and I will be using these Forstner bits that are the Ryobi brand right here, that you can get at Home Depot. I got this on sale, I think, for 20 bucks. I used a gift card that I got for a birthday a few years back, and these things have just been awesome and have had no real issues with them. So the bit that I will be using for the acrylic paints that seems to be pretty darn close is going to be the 1 1/8. So the largest bit out of the set that I have here. So hopefully this gives just enough breathing room to where they're not absolutely getting so much slop that they just kind of rattle around anytime I bump, move, or open and close a drawer on this workbench. So hopefully they'll stay a little bit taut, but it won't be so tight that I absolutely have to pressure them in and then hold the whole shelf and yank them out and just use them. So that'll be the next step, is getting on the old drill press, making a few holes, and then I'll be turning the material on its side, and I'll be drilling the 2 holes in either end. I'll probably do a 3rd hole as well in the center, and then using these good old little L hooks. Alright, on to the next step. And like that, it's pretty much all put together. Because as with everything in my shops, now kind of plural, this one being the garage and my actual workshop for woodworking, it's never quite finished, is it? There's always going to be some tweaking or some changing or some modification. That's one of the reasons I love pegboard so much. French cleat is also a wonderful system I'd like to get into more. But for right now, pegboard is what is cheap, readily available, and I'm enjoying it. So this setup, I think, will be the primary setup for at least a couple years to come. We'll see. I might, like I said, make a few modifications here and there. Hopefully you enjoyed the build. It was pretty simple, using the 1 and I think it was 3/8 Forstner bit to bore out the hole. Worked pretty much perfectly. Each and every one of these is pretty easy to lift up and pull out, and if I flat angle it, it wedges, so I have just enough thickness with this being 1/2 inch, and then I bored into it, just leaving a little bit on the bottom. The other part that I kind of forgot to note was that these are, yes indeed, pallet wood, so there is some character. Where this knot is at, it does slightly lean up, and as you saw in the video, there was 2 chunks kind of missing out of the boards. I didn't mind having those 2 chunks missing because they're hidden. You can't see them from the front when the product is finished and up on the pegboard. It seems a little high and tucked up, but that gives me the most room underneath, so that way I'm able to utilize my space appropriately without any issue. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. If you have yourself a need or desire to come up with a system to store any and all of your acrylic paints, I highly suggest this if you have the capability to do so with either the tools at hand, or even if they're hand tools, whatever you need to do to get something like this and you enjoy the idea. Leave me a like below and a comment saying that you're doing it. That'd help me out greatly to know if this is helping you guys and future content as well. This is going to be something that's going to help me out greatly, so hopefully it benefits you guys out there, or gals, whoever is watching the video. So thanks again. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully you'll hit that notification bell so that way you'll get notifications each and every time I put a video out. Thank you all so very much, and have yourself a wonderful day.